The following video builds off my previous Tomb Raider reviews. You should probably check those first before proceeding. Tomb Raider Anniversary was released in 2007 for every 7th gen console, PC, the PS2, and the PlayStation Portable. It had been 10 years since the release of the original PSX version, so Crystal Dynamics took a break from the Legend storyline to produce a remake of the very first game. The old story and the old levels were examined and revamped for the 2007 audience. To save yourself, it's probably going to end up being a 40-minute review or so. This combination of the new controls and old design come together to produce what's essentially the most coherent Tomb Raider experience we have so far. This game is about what the title screen says: tomb raiding. The quick time events have largely been removed. Stages are more about losing yourself in the architecture and atmosphere. Lara isn't bantering on the phone every 5 seconds so local black guy Zip can make some kind of stupid joke. Nah, this time Hollywood Lara gives a much better performance at emulating the real thing. I say Hollywood Lara because that characterization bit is still leaking its way in. It's not a running leak. I mean, Lara isn't going to whine about her mommy. But the devs are putting a little more emphasis on coherent storytelling. See, I know that because in the PC version, once you beat the game, you can beat it again with developer commentary. Sometimes these assholes sound drunker than I am right now.
And it was this point where we wanted to actually really connect the player with the experience of they want to move forward, Lara wants to move forward.
I don't want to spoil everything they have to say, but in one of their bits they do talk about how story was a bigger focus and how they wanted to characterize Lara a little more. I'll point it out when we get to those bits, but since this is review number 8, I've got a fucking schedule to keep here. See, now I'm supposed to talk about any changes the game made from the last one. I would do that, but this Lara and this Lara are nearly identical save for their weapon and health systems. This game reverts back to health packs, spinny menus, multiple weapons, and pretty much emulates the PS1 version, which is much better in my opinion. Save the decision on the health packs. Most people are probably going to be against me on this one, but I honestly do think the 3 health pack limit was a good way to give the combat a greater sense of challenge. Now you can just go back to standing still if you got the health for it. For this review I'm doing level replays, so I'm always going to start with 3, but normally that shit just keeps stacking. Something else I'm doing is blatantly using the bullshit power weapons you get from finding the game's secrets. For me, the original Tomb Raider was always about challenging my mind. I know how to flip away from the enemy long enough to kill him, so I'm going to opt out of combat for this run. I've beaten this thing like 80 zillion times, so there's no enemy that's going to stop me here, especially with Lara's new controls. I neglected to talk about the grapple for the last review, but it's back again here to alter the way some puzzles play out. The grapple is this awesome device Lara has to Batman places and bullshit. It also makes a way for some unconventional thinking, so the decision is to port it here, and it's a positive, is what I wrote down. I like the low-tech aesthetic approach to it as well. It's not the same magnet grapple belt, it's an actual grapple and rope. Lara's outfit count has dropped quite a bit, but most outfits pay homage to other games. The Tomb Raider 2 wetsuit is here. The catsuit could be a Tomb Raider 3 or Chronicles thing. The camo pants outfit from Angel of Darkness is here. Legend is here. Hell, even the blocky PS1 Lara is here. Of all these changes, I definitely gotta give my number one to the manual grab function. See, I was super prepared to bitch about Lara making certain jumps and she just wanted to magnet hands her way to ledges I didn't want, until I found out that I could just toggle jumping to emulate the PS1 version. This way, Lara won't subtly coerce your jump to places she can grip. It'll be up to you to decide on what she does and doesn't attempt to grab. You may have some gripes with automatic, but manual alleviates most of my prepared statement of bitching. It's not perfect, but having the option is nice. If you like the change in Legend, then stick with the auto grip. If you yearn for the good old-fashioned way, that's there too. Man, this game is so great. That hole in the middle of the disc was twice as small. It'd actually feel good when I f***ed it. The story begins much the same way it did last time. We get that scene in New Mexico. Nadla turns Lara onto the Skion, although this time she drops in some bits about her father.
My research department has recently turned its focus to the study of ancient artifacts, and I'm led to believe that with the right incentive, you're just the woman to find them for me.
I'm afraid you've been misled. I only play for sport.
Which is precisely why I've come to you, Miss Croft. This is a game you've played before, with your father. You both spent years searching for the Skion of Atlantis. All you needed was the location of Qualopec's tomb.
You found Vilcabamba.
Remember when the thrill of a good time was enough?
Feast your eyes on this, Lara. How does that make your wallet rumble?
I'm sorry. I only play for sport.
Then you'll like a big park. Peru, vast mountain ranges to cover, sheer walls of ice, rocky crags, savage winds, and there's this little trinket. An age-old artifact of mystical powers buried in the unfound tomb of Qualopec. That's my interest. You could leave tomorrow. Are you busy tomorrow?
I can get wanting to make some things make more sense, or changing some stuff around because the times have changed or whatever, but these superficial changes never really sat right with me. I'm gonna tangent here and nitpick a bit, but what I liked about this Lara was that her goals and desires coincided with the players at a one-to-one level. Of all the incarnations we have, I really think gaming can use the classic version, now more than ever. Now it's all about flash and giving people a fucking bow and arrow, having that hidden reason why you do things, being destined for more, or some fucking origin about an innocence lost. All coming from the girl that went places and did things because she wanted to. And of course everyone's gonna say that the change was for the better, or Lara had no character, or that she was just some fuckboy's wet dream because big breasts are evil. But honestly, that simplicity to her was kinda nice. What got Lara up and going? Was it the possibility to finish something her father started? Was it to try and leave her mark or find mommy? Nah, it was just the promise of a good and fun challenge. Simple. Why do we play Tomb Raider games? I'm not a voice for everyone, but for me, seeing that new title drop every year was another excuse to engage myself. Lose myself in the ambience. Wrinkle my brain a bit. Most importantly, I was just looking for some fun. No, not that kind of fun. I didn't fucking care what the excuse was to get moving. I just liked the new places the adventure took me each time. China, Peru, Egypt, Venice, under the fucking sea, train stations that beat me like an early 1900s Negro. I just wanted to explore and feel challenged. Lara wants to explore and feel challenged. And really, in a world of every fucking AAA title trying to win some fictional Oscar, having a character adventure because they just like doing it is kinda nice. We're not saving the planet. We're not the chosen one. We're some rich asshole with a ridiculous body, top-notch athletic ability, traveling the globe for trinkets, odds and ends, and that sort of thing. That's it. Stopping some kind of devastation was a byproduct of getting ours. That's what I fucking loved. These fuckfaces have to try and save the planet. Lara saves the planet by complete accident. It's like never her goal. It's just fun seeing that kind of persona play off these super serious organizations. She's not Superwoman either. Some random asshole can sneak up on her or they can hold their own. I wish this characterization wasn't viewed as a lack of characterization. Everyone doesn't need to be this brooding wank-off, or be some important figure, or have suffered some kind of tragic loss, you know? She was just fun. A person without any shit or any baggage. Well, until her mentor figure comes in. Like, why does everyone I take control of now need to have some shit in their life? Like, people just can't be happy and doing it for themselves. No, that's not how we do things in our screenwriting club. Lara Croft was just the protagonist doing it because, hey, it's fun. That's exactly why I play games. My nigga. But anyway, there's a prospect we can finish our years of research with Daddy, so now... off you go, Hollywood Lara. Off you go. Before hopping into the main game, Croft Manor has decided to be a standalone tutorial stage as it once was, so let's run through that right quick. Since Angel of Darkness Lara got the raw deal, let's give her another shot. As Croft Manors go, this one overtakes Tomb Raider 3 as the most inclusive tutorial of the bunch. The only thing Tomb Raider 3 Mansions does that this doesn't is allow you to shoot at a moving target. You still get the pistols here, but they're used for puzzle solving. Instead of being a place of platforming practice with an optional puzzle, Croft Manor is all puzzle this time around. Things are laid out in a way to encourage thorough exploration. You see shit you can interact with, and then you find necessary components to engage with said shit once you pry it a little further. In the old days, finding something like this arrowhead and attaching it to the correct spot would be the puzzle's entirety, just a way to dress up the lock and key formula. If this were Legend, the solution would be in this spot right next to the puzzle. Here, the solution on where to turn the dial isn't in the immediate area, so Lara needs to poke around some more for the answer. This requirement of the exploration is what makes the manor feel like an appropriate primer for the tomb raiding ahead. Within this house of puzzles, you get a test of movement controls, the grapple, the guns, and the interaction elements. There's even a maze with a map you can find or completely miss, meaning there is some reward for thorough players. It's also got shortcuts to open, secret artifacts to collect which count towards the grand total, and an ending point in the music room. Hell, even the creepy butler pops in and out of places. If the stage actually managed to include some combat, it'd be a much stronger tutorial than the caves. Ultimately, this is the most satisfying iteration of Lara's home to play through, and thankfully it indicates a return to more A-linear tomb raiding. Lara doesn't have any wet clothes to change out of this time, so we need to manually take ourselves out of the manor and head into the main adventure. Things begin much the same way as last time. The cave serves as an introductory stage for those not keen on starting in the manor. It's a straight shot from point A to point B. The only significant change is the switch from hidden goodies to hidden artifacts. The artifacts once again give an indication on how well the player explored and incentivizes a more thoughtful approach to level progression. The physical rewards and weapons, outfits, and the pistol upgrades further incentivizes their collection. I don't have much to say about this stage that differs from the first review, really. It's not threatening. It lets you get your feet wet. And it does fluidly transition into the next stage, although you won't be seeing it here since I am using the stage replay function. City of Vilcamba is also much the same, save the moving block fiasco. I still don't mind them thanks to the improved controls, and it's kinda cool seeing the low-tech solutions to this stuff fully realized in high definition. But it does introduce one of the few issues I actually do have with the game. The ways Lara can get around her environment are far more numerous thanks to her new control scheme, but there does seem to be an over-reliance on the wall clinging. When the game does ask Lara to use the mechanic to make her way through a room, as opposed to around a room, it's always interesting. But what usually ends up happening is you traversing a space by the corners. Off the top of my head, Volcamba falls into it, the cistern portion of the Tomb of Tehokan falls into it, and the main puzzles in the later Egyptian stages fall into it. I know there's more, but it's never enough to where platforming becomes uninspired because they do begin throwing in obstacles and such in the way of it. This combination of the wall clinging, grapple, and wall running is a particularly good example. I would have liked to see more ways to solve puzzles that didn't involve traversing a room from the walls, but for what's on offer as of now, the content is sufficiently diverse. Sufficiently diverse. Sufficiently diverse. Sufficiently diverse. Anyway, Volcamba forgoes the ending puzzle key and leads into the Lost Valley. This stage takes a drastic shift from the former approach, and it's one that also doesn't sit well with me. I know from the commentary in Nabla's Minds that the developers conscientiously made the decision to make things less confusing.
Right, so we wanted to address that in the remake, and also some of the we wanted to sort of refine the mines down to a sort of more manageable set of gameplay area. A lot of people, I think, found the mines to be fairly confusing to play through, so we really simplified it down to a couple of key areas that were sort of thematic.
I know they're talking about the mines here, but it's not a stretch to say that this train of thought could have influenced other stages. The changes made to this stage feels like added restrictions to what was once an open area. The beauty of Lost Valley was letting the player into an open space and not restricting progression. Granted, this was very simplistic. You either go up or downstream. Going up would give you a goal, and going down would give you some indication of what's to come in an optional boss fight. You start at point A. Point B is basically right next to you, and you have to head off to open that path. In the layout at least, that concept is exactly the same, but instead of having the freedom to start downstream, you now have to head upstream first and find some cogs before getting the final one behind a scripted boss fight. This is also the first appearance of the quick time event engine from Tomb Raider Legend. The stage is arguably more interesting to play through than last time around. They did do a lot to expand on the space, but it's also more linear than last time around, which at this point in the game we're supposed to be moving away from. It's a competent stage, but I was just disheartened to see that freedom of choice stripped away. I'm less disheartened about the cogs than I am about the T-Rex. I guess it was to be expected that the dinosaur was going to be a cage fight with a bombastic score, but it takes away from that surprise. That first time entering the jungle, you didn't know what you were in for. Then suddenly you had a large, intimidating threat step out of the shadows to no fanfare whatsoever. It was up to you on whether you wanted to fight it or try to carry on while evading it. In other words, it could function as either an obstacle or as a boss fight. A little part of me hoped it would stay true to that, and the rest of me kinda knew that was a little naive. After all, why have a boss fight you can ignore when you can shove quick time events in the player's face and play up the moment? I can't say that evading the fight entirely last time was challenging, but I wish forcing the encounter wasn't the right call. That came out a little weird. I'm saying that forcing the encounter is the right call, but I wish that it wasn't the right call. In order to keep the same scenario as last time, the challenge is making an enemy that's challenging but satisfying to avoid, or satisfying to fight, at the same time. That's something that's understandably pretty difficult to get working. You can have very satisfying enemies to fight, only to find they're pretty easy to avoid, or enemies that put some good pressure on platforming, but are a pushover to fight. Making the T-Rex work completely in the middle of those two spectrums may have proved too much of a challenge, so they opted to force a fight. I get that. I just wish it could have still cornered you in some way without the need for a QTE. A common way of doing this would be to force Lara to grab something on the far side of the arena and then trigger the enemy. Thankfully, this is one of the few instances of these sequences. The fight does force you to use the new enemy rage mechanic, where you just kind of annoy shit enough with your bullets before you flip out of the way of its warpath for a critical hit. This makes your positioning more important and makes the fight more than just evasion and firing, so it's at least a good inclusion. Anywho, Lara kills a T-Rex, then splits open the waterfall and enters the tomb of Qualopec. The aesthetic here is drastically different than last time around. I thought I was in for a golden palace, but instead I found a far more sensible spot. I fucking hate this pillar placement for this jump. Just fuck this. Use the walls. Learned that way too late. But other than that, tackle the tomb in any order you'd like. Left, right, then center, center, left, and right, right, center, left. Your call. Raptors also keep finding a way over these death-defying traps and bottomless holes somehow. I think that one raptor from Tomb Raider 3 gave him some pointers. Look, I don't know what to say about this one. The challenges are better suited for the new control scheme. The level layout is the same in principle. Anyway, after getting the ski-on piece, you'd normally have a gunfight with Larson. But because Lara is being painted as a person who doesn't use lethal methods against people for this part of the story, it's a QTE instead. The following cutscene then goes on to hit the same notes as its source material plus some extra. One change I do like to the story is that little more bit of detail to make the following events more coherent. We see Larson stalking Lara as he talks to Nabla, and it introduces Pierre far more smoothly. Last time we just see Lara reading a journal, and the only way we can infer it was Pierre's was by her offhanded comment at the end of the scene.
Pierre, you litterbug.
This time the plans are a little more explored, which is okay in my books. St. Francis Folly proves to be the best retread of St. Francis Folly I've ever seen. It's missing that middle sewer part with the alligators, but that central tower still intimidates you with its scale. And the challenges have all been revamped for the better. Poseidon has a proper puzzle instead of just being a long swim down a shaft. The Hephaestus room is less random with the lightning, and the puzzle utilizing the Great Hammer is neat. The Atlas challenge is essentially the same, only asking you to do some wall clinging instead of the quick roll. The Damocles puzzle asks you to do some more challenging platforming without checkpoints instead of just lazily avoiding weird swords falling from the roof, although those are here as well. I was certain the increased budget would turn the Pierre encounters to quick time events, but thankfully that's not the case. Instead of finding him randomly throughout the next few stages, you just get a single cutscene stating that the two are racing, and then he's like never heard from again until the end. I'm glad these didn't devolve into QTEs, but I also don't think not trying was the right call either. I know they probably took the encounters out because Lara's not supposed to be shooting at people for this portion of the story, but that's putting a narrative concern over the gameplay. Pierre could have screwed with Lara in other ways, maybe when she's like in the middle of a puzzle or something. The Colosseum is a short excursion with some scripted animal assaults, but a satisfying excursion nevertheless. It's another instance of getting to see the vision that the dev team couldn't even fully render on screen at one time all those years ago. The puzzles still send you all over the space in that logical and satisfying manner, and the challenge artifacts encourage you to go even more in depth. Palace Midas, now arbitrarily called Midas's Palace, starts similarly to its predecessor, but it opens up in an entirely different way. This version of the stage is definitely a simplification. I know why the devs opted to do this, and I still disagree with that mentality. Before, you had a sprawling area that required you to work a central mechanic to get around. Know that statue of Midas? The thing that was hidden off in a corner? It's now the main set piece for the stage. You can work through the tomb in a few different orders, but definitely not as many as the last time around. The changes to the original challenges are all welcomed improvements, but the change to the overall layout was a little uncalled for. Another uncalled for change was the combination of the cistern and the Tomb of Tihocan. Instead of expanding upon that stage, we now get a single room where Lara wall crawls around to solve a simple puzzle before getting shot into the boss area. These two segments were proper stages in their own right, and the decision to neuter them this much baffles me. Was it so that every area only had 4 stages or less? Yeah, last time around Greece had the most content, but who cares? Why was this done? This once complex area became a simple switch puzzle. Hey Lara, you know the puzzle's over, right? You can move now. Hey. Okay. Obviously a simple glitch. Not that bad to replay. I'll just pop things into place again and... Oh. Okay, yeah. Ah, shit. See what I do for you fuckers? Now I gotta go. Okay, I gotta change this fucking. Okay, I gotta. Tomb Raider Underworld. Tomb. No. Tomb. Here we go. Yeah, okay. I'll be right back. Oh yeah, the Wii U doesn't have my Wii's save data. Okay, PSP version it is. Being able to speed up frames is pretty neat, but this fight is pretty terrible with this control scheme. It's not a bad fight. You're turning the Guardian statue powers against them, which just beats hiding in a room and shotgunning them to death. But adjusting the PSP controls last minute kinda sucks. I was also supposed to murder that prick Pierre here for the second time, but I'm still against shooting people who actively try and shoot me. Oh wait. Is this the part where I prepare myself to be okay with it? Oh. Oh no. He got away. And conveniently gets killed. Right? Yeah, overall not one of my favorite changes Anniversary did. Lara gets the Ski-On piece and then has a psychedelic vision of the past which clues her into the next piece of the Ski-On. Lara gets 64-bit and then heads to the Egyptian stages. Last time I combined the temple, obelisk, and sanctuary into one piece since they all interlinked and overlapped with each other. The same holds true here, though in a much more streamlined fashion. Those punishing mummy enemies make a grand entrance here, but their inclusion this time around is far less annoying since you no longer control like you're on a grid system. The changes to the puzzles also get far more creative as Lara's mechanics combine in ways that force you to think a little more critically. I said critically. Being completely honest, I still don't know the exact solution to this one here. I just sorta get lucky rotating shit every time. Maybe that makes me stupid. I really don't know how to expand on what was said before. It just feels like what the Tomb rating was building up to thus far. The stages come together instead of feeling disjointed. All your stuff gets put to good use. Though some of that grand scale does get lost in translation since everything is visible on screen. And if you play through this again, definitely give the dev commentary a listen on this section, because it's actually quite amusing. The Sphinx in this room here is just something one of the guys made because he thought it would be cool, and everything that spun off from that is pretty funny. Once your nice, long, 3-stage uninterrupted sequence of tomb raiding is completed, Lara gets the final piece without killing Larson. Instead, she gets apprehended by a big black guy and... Holy shit, guys! Skater Boy is still here! They have names now. It's like Cold, because he's like a cold motherfucker, and Jerome Johnson. Fuck this kid. We do the Trials Fusion bit and stow away with no fucks to give, and then we enter Nadla's Simplified Minds. It's all the important rooms according to the developers. They point out that you could just kind of run past the cowboy character that came at you in the no weapons portion of the stage, but yeah, I'm still not a fan of the stage simplification. We still gather 3 fuses in order to get our weapons back, and it's here where Lara begins her human murder spree. They do this in a QTE so you'll see her emotional struggle or some shit, but I really don't like this guy.
Even if the monkey has the mercury stone.
Fuck you. Fuck this guy. I have no qualms pulling that trigger. He's done nothing to make him remotely likable to me. He's only ever betrayed and or tried to kill me. I can really only call this story benchmark kind of a dud. You try to add a personal conflict with the killing people in there, and that is the summary of what that is. I think my favorite QTE in the game is actually when Cold and Skater Boy try to ambush Lara in the end. There's no more skate parks, but hearing the devs reminisce about the good old days is fun enough.
Originally, the kid and fight with the shotgun guy, who I think didn't even have a name in Tomb Raider 1. Yeah, shotgun guy, who's now Cold Kincaid. So they were sort of separated, and when we were remaking the game, the notion of a guy on a skateboard in this underground skate park seemed sort of ridiculous.
It was pretty funny there in the original, though.
So we removed the skateboard boss fight from the game.
So instead of ambushing you in Tony Hawk's Underground, the two assholes literally kill each other trying to kill you. Lara actually doesn't win the fight, it's just that these guys can't cooperate. I just thought it was kind of funny. The mines turn into that upward lava ascent that is the Great Pyramid. This stage is another instance of just relying on Lara's wall clinging to advance things. If I look a little strange, it's because I put on the doppelganger costume so I match with my soulmate over here. Fun fact, this disgusting and seemingly useless one-off stage gimmick goes on to be the second playable character besides Lara behind Naruto. She gets her own DLC in the PS3 release of Underworld, which I'm still not gonna buy a system to get one segment of DLC. Really, fuck DLC in Underworld, but anyway, you go upwards in a square room along the walls of the lava-filled room until you hit the final conflict. The boss here now has a little more strategy. You can't just move and shoot him like you did before, and now you gotta shoot his hand off and then make him rage to his death. Really, the bosses of Anniversary have all been improvements on the simple flip and shoot strategy, so it wins in that category. Killing the boss once again triggers an escape sequence that's not really an escape sequence since there's no timer, and then you go through one final bit of shenanigans before having a more epic fight with Nadla, who was just kind of a pushover last time. She pulled the whole join me bit on you earlier, saying we're not so different and all that. It's pretty easy to refute that claim. I get what they were going for. Lara's arc is supposed to be this normal treasure hunter that turns to killing in cold blood for her prize. But like, I don't know, man. If some asshole starts shooting at me, that's grounds for me to put their ass in the dirt. She didn't exactly say,
anyone between me and that stone dies.
It was just kind of self-defense. We're not alike. I mean, we look exactly the same, but we're not even fucking close. So we kill her, or do what we can to incapacitate immortal and immortal, blow up the temple, and then boat away. There's a nice little bit after this called Style Units. It's just a collaboration of parts of level design the developers slapped together. You can kind of run around. I think the team was using this as practice before they made the game. It's a pretty interesting bit, but there's not much to do. You just kind of loop around in a circle, but it's a nice inclusion. Tomb Raider Anniversary is a nice reimagining of the past. Porting over Lara's skill set from Legend has done wonders for the game's environment, but the decision to simplify the stages themselves is one that I wholeheartedly disagree with. There's still an alinear nature to the design, but something about it does feel condensed. There's not much room to really get lost, but that's not to say everything is completely straightforward either. When areas do become a little more sprawling, first-timers will get to experience the joys of not having a waypoint guide you, if only for a moment. It's just a shame to see that this kind of level design only exists here because it was mimicking the level design of the past. It says a lot when combining classic level design and modern controls equates to the most polished Tomb Raider experience we've got so far. It still has some of the modern annoyances like QuickTime events, but those elements are far more subdued. It's mainly just you and Lara, engaging in long, uninterrupted sequences of satisfying gameplay. It's just a shame we won't get the more polished controls with the advancements in level design that the sequels brought to the table. An alinear story that could be completed in any order, or vast spaces that connect to each other in meaningful ways would be the logical next step to take in level design. But it's time to get back to our story. The story of how Hollywood Lara finds her mummy. Will she find what she's looking for? Will the reunion be a happy one? Will this treasure hunter get the closure she's looking for? Find out next time as we review Tomb Raider 2 for the PC. It's happening, guys! Look, it's China! And Flair's come back too! Hey, yeah, this is gonna be great! I can't wait!
Shut it down!
Lara, unexpected, but I'm glad you're here. You should be allowed to see firsthand the